I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Vallecitos Water District for Wednesday, September 16th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Pursuant to the Executive Order N3520, we are still holding our meetings via teleconferencing, and any public comments that were sent in and received at least 90 minutes before this meeting will be noted and recorded and given to the board. At this moment, I don't believe we have any. And any of the members of the public viewing the meeting via the Zoom video conferencing platform right now can express their desire to provide input at the appropriate time by utilizing the raise hand function. Additional instructions for online participation will be posted on the district's website, www.vwd.org/meetings. And welcome to those of you who are out there. I'll start with a roll call. Director Martin.
Present.
Thank you. Director Elitharp.
Present.
Thank you. Director Hernandez.
Present.
Thank you. And Director Sinella.
Here.
Thank you. And I'm here, so we're all in full attendance. If there are no additions to the or changes to the agenda, then I would entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved, Martin.
Thank you. It's been moved by Director Martin and seconded by Director Evans that we accept the agenda for the regular meeting of today. Roll call vote. Director Sinella?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Elitharp?
Yes.
Are you there, Director Elitharp?
Yes.
Oh, Director Martin?
Yes.
Thank you. And I also, so that's accepted, passes unanimously. We'll now go into public comment if anyone wishes to speak at this time on an item that's not currently on the agenda.
Yeah, we have not received any written comments, and none of the outside attendees appears to be wanting to make a comment at this point in time.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll start off with presentations today. We have 3 by the Finance Department. So I believe, are you going to lead it, Glenn, or would you prefer I move it straight over to Finance?
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to turn it over to Finance Manager Wes Owen, and he's going to make 3 presentations.
Okay, thank you.
Take it away, Wes.
Good evening. Can everybody see my screen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'll start off by saying that if you like hearing me talk, this is going to be a great board meeting. If not, I apologize in advance. So I have 3 presentations to start off with. We're going to be talking about the Fitch surveillance, then we'll talk about the award of financial reporting and the smart meter pilots. So starting with the Fitch surveillance, the agenda is going to be, I'll give you a little background on the surveillance process and what we go through. We'll talk about the press release issued by Fitch. Then we'll go over the key rating drivers they noted. Then we'll talk about the conclusion. So a little background on the surveillance process. As you know, during the budget process, we talked a lot about days in cash, debt service coverage ratio, the need to have stable reserves, the willingness of the board to raise rates and other factors like that that go into the rating criteria. So this is considered during the budget process. And Fitch actually does a full surveillance of us every 2 years. So we began working with them this year in May of 2020, and we just released their final press release, received their final press release in August of 2011. Hopefully I can do better going forward because we have a long way to go, and that was 2 stumbles right there. So August 11, 2020, we got their press release. So what was the conclusion of the press release? Well, we got good news. Fitch affirmed our AA plus rating with a stable outlook. And as you can imagine, in today's economic environment, that is quite the accomplishment. So Some of the key rating drivers that they noted in their press release were that we have a strong and diverse local economy. Our household income is 125% of the national average. Unemployment is less than the national average. Vallecitos has a diverse customer base. Our top 10 water customers use less than or account for less than 15% of our operating revenue. And those top 10 customers are stable public entities, HOAs, and/or multifamily complexes. And we have an independent rate setting authority, our board of directors. We have affordable and flexible rates and a willingness to increase rates when necessary. They also know that we have a strong debt service coverage. Our debt service coverage is over 3 times since 2015. And finally, we have a strong liquidity position. That's where our days in cash comes in hand. So in conclusion, it's the first presentation. Congratulations. This is one of our many moments in the sun, and it is a big accomplishment. Staff thanks the board and the finance committee for all their input, feedback, and help during the budget process. And one of the major goals of the budget process is to maintain our rating criteria, and we've accomplished that. So good job.
Well, congratulations. And I want to say thank you to the staff, to the administration, to the finance committee, and to this board for being willing to stick to a policy and an attitude that provides a sustainable and financially stable district. We're really lucky to have that, and it's been a lot of great effort on a lot of great people. I'm really proud of all of you. Thank you so much.
President,
Yes, Director Hernandez.
do we know what the other agencies' ratings are, Wes?
I can tell you that Leeuwenhoek has a AAA.
Oh.
Ah,
That's really the only one I know of because we kind of compete with them, I guess.
Yeah.
I did talk to Fitch and say, how do we get that AAA? And unfortunately, they told me that their answer was pretty much that we're too small. And I asked, I said, because apparently Leeuwenhoek has significant reserves. I thought that we had about the same, but apparently we don't have enough to qualify for AAA currently. I think we have much better, our other rating criteria should be much higher, so we should have a AAA, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
great. Great, thank you. All right.
If I may,
Yes,
I'd like to thank staff for getting Vallecitos in a financial position to get that rating, and they're doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
well said. Wes, I would like to have you, just for the public to understand, what is the significance, besides saying we're doing a good job, what is the importance of this double A plus?
It's very important in that it actually provides financial stability. So we are able, if we need to go out for debt with a AA plus rating, it makes it much easier for us to not only get debt, but to get more debt. So we'll get debt, we'll get more debt, and we'll get it at a much lower rate than we would if we didn't have a solid rating criteria.
It's kind of like our credit scores, our FICA, when we're
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. Good job. All right.
Okay, moving on. The next presentation, 2 out of 3. This is the award of financial reporting. So as you may remember back in November when we presented the audited financial statements to the board, staff had expanded the basic financial statements to be a comprehensive annual financial report with this excellent cover that you see in front of you, designed by Alicia and Conservation. So in order to expand from basic financial statements to a comprehensive annual financial report, or a CAFR, you have to add 2 sections. So the basic financial statements actually consist of the financial section, and I'll talk about that first. The financial section consists of the independent auditor's report, the management's discussion and analysis section, the financial statements themselves. Then you have the notes to the financial statements and the required supplementary information. So that's quite the packet anyway, but in order to go to a CAFR, you have to add the introductory section and the statistical section. So the introductory section is made up of a letter of transmittal, which gives a background of the district, history of the district, economic and demographic information. It also has an organization chart. Then it has the list of principal officials and a service area map. So that's the introductory section. And then you have to add the statistical section, which is approximately 16, not approximately, it is 16 tables with 10 years of information in each one of the tables. And I'll go into that a little bit more. So it's made up of tables 1 and 2, which are the financial trends, and they show the financial performance and well-being, which is basically 10 years of net position of the district. Then you have the revenue capacity, which details information about revenues and expenses, and they're broken down by source. And that's on pages or tables 3 through 9. And that's also 10 years worth of information. Then we show the debt capacity. That is the outstanding debt by type and the debt service coverage ratio of the district for the last 10 years. And that's in tables 10 and 11. Then you have the demographic and economic information. That's the assessed valuation, population information, and largest employers of the district. And that's 10 years worth as well, and that's on tables 12 through 14. And finally, you have the operating information, and that shows the employees by function and the capital assets by type for the last 10 years, and that's on the last 2 tables, tables 15 and 16. So in order to prepare these 16 tables with 10 years of information, it takes a long time, and it's a full staff effort, and the first year you do it, you have to put it all together. Going forward and maintaining it isn't quite as difficult because you just add 1 year at a time, but initially putting it together is quite a task. And then once you get done, you have to go through a 79-page checklist to make sure that you have all the requirements that are met in order to apply for the award. So this is what the checklist looks like. And this is a sample page from that checklist where we had to answer yes, no, or NA through all 79 pages. And finally, what was the result of our hard work? It's coming up. The district was awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for our comprehensive annual financial report for June 30th, 2019. So, and we got this award, the award for financial reporting, which is for the finance department, and then we'll be getting a plaque in the mail that we can hang in the lobby. It's a nice plaque that's got a wood background to it, nice frame. And finally, in conclusion, congratulations, another one of our many moments in the sun, and it is quite the accomplishment. So, full staff effort, and I want to say congratulations to everybody.
Yeah, and President Evans, if I may add, it's
Yes.
Wes is being a little modest. I mean, to get this award in the first time that you prepare the report is pretty rare. Just the effort to prepare it for the first time was a lot, but to be acknowledged by the agency that you've been awarded an excellence in this category is a pretty rare accomplishment. So great work to Wes and his team.
And I'd like to add to that, our auditors actually complimented that it is very difficult to get it the first time. So it's difficult. And it's for them to say it, and they helped us.
Well, I'm on the audit committee at the Water Authority, and they've received this award like 21 times in a row. But after I talked with Lisa Marie about it, I mean, I totally understand how hard it would be. Just 79 pages of checking off boxes would put me out. But it probably made, oh, he's smiling already. Mike loved every minute of it. And did you also, Wes?
Every minute. I've been wanting to do
Every minute of, well, it's
do this for 8 years.
something to be really proud of, and I expect you'll continue to get that. Would any other member like to? Yes.
Yeah, hey, Director Evans, I would just like to pass along kudos as well. And, you know, the Water Authority is a massive agency compared to us, and they probably have a team of 12 people that work on this. And we have our 2, Mike and Wes. So great job, guys. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys keeping the district in a good financial standing. Great job to our finance committee chairman, Hal Martin, keeping us focused on the finances all the time, and really appreciate that from him. And it's always good to get the positive feedback. We don't always get the positive feedback, but it's, you know, so far a good start to the meeting.
It's really nice. Thank you again.
Director
Anyone
Evans?
else? Yes, Director Martin.
Yeah, I would just like to thank our staff. It's been quite an experience learning from them and watching them tasking away and doing their job day in and day out. They do a wonderful job, and it's been my honor to be a chairperson for a couple of years, and so is Mike Sinella, and to watch them moving along, they just do a great job. Thank you very much, staff.
All right. And the third one is it is exciting a presentation?
I hope so. Let's find out. This one actually has video, so it's probably more exciting, actually.
Oh,
I guess.
wow.
Yeah, I'll just listen for a minute. So now I'm going to talk about our smart meter pilots. We've actually done 2 pilot programs in the last year, looking at new types of technology and finding ways to make reading your water meter and provide, efficient or conveniences for our customers and savings for the district. So the 2 programs we've looked at were capstone meters. Capstone meters is what they call an IntelliH2O intelligent water meter. It's based off of a cell. It's the AT&T LTE-M technology, which supposedly has had 5G for 3 years. So it has like the AMI capabilities without the infrastructure needs. So we were able to do a 6-month pilot with no cost to the district. And we had 25 meters installed and tested this pilot program. And then we also did the Flume program. Flume is a smart home water monitor. This is a different device. It's a customer-based device that goes on the meter and is actually used to the customer's Wi-Fi. So we had 25 customers volunteer for the pilot. We purchased 25 Flumes, and they provided us with an agreement to share their information, so we're able to look at the results of their water usage, and they have an app on their side, and the plan is to collect feedback from them. So let's take a look at Capstone. So this is the introductory video to the Capstone product.
I don't have any video. I mean, any sound.
Any audio? I don't either.
Oh. Do we not have audio?
No, I don't have audio.
Yeah, we don't have it.
No.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't. It's not muted. So we may not be able to do the video then, because the volume's inside the video.
Yeah.
That's what happens when the finance guy tries to do IT stuff.
That's what happens. I could hear it great on my side. I guess I can't share my sound with you. Maybe I can turn, no, that probably won't work.
You'll notice we didn't get an award in IT for financial reporting.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't be getting one of those anytime soon.
You
Okay,
don't know what he says already and could just say it for the gentleman?
He says their product is great and it provides, you can actually see the caption of it. Can you hear anything there?
A little bit.
I heard something, but not now.
It dies real quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just move on to the conclusion.
So what he's going to say here is one thing we can take out of it because it's actually written out in the video. Lack of actionable data, and he's referring to the ability to get the information offline and the remote access. Okay, so hopefully we have sound on the next video, although I'm not optimistic at this point. Anyway, going on, moving along. This is some more information about Capstone. Oh, went back. So this is some more information about Capstone from their website. So their meters have the following features. They have an integrated ball valve for on-off control. They have a modular 2-way wireless communication design feature. They have industry-leading accuracy, integrated pressure temperature sensing, and onboard power generation with rechargeable battery system. So it's basically a smart meter that sends out the signal to cell phone tower services, and we're able to log into their website, get customer reads. We're supposed to be able to download it into our billing system. And we're also supposed to have the ability, 2 of the things we really liked about this product was the ability to have that wireless communications to save us the need to have meter readers drive around and collect the data from the AMR meters. So we'd just be able to do it from the office. And the other thing we liked was the ability to turn it on and off from the district. So if we needed to lock a customer, if we needed to turn off their meter for work or do anything like that, we could actually do it from here. And we were supposed to have the ability to turn it back on from here as well. So those were the 2 of the most attractive features of this product. because very similar to AMI, as I mentioned. So what were the results? Well, the program was supposed to go for 6 months, but due to COVID, it actually extended from December 30th to 2019 to August 2020. It actually just ended. They picked up the last meter today. Oh, hold on one second. I got a message from Jonathan. I think he's trying to tell me how to turn on the sound.
We don't care.
Okay.
Doing good.
Okay, there's a share computer sound apparently button I can find. Maybe I'll show you that for the next video if I can figure it out. Okay, so the second thing to note about Capstone is that they're a small company. Their largest customer is 500 to 600 meters. So going into that, we were wondering if they'd have the ability to handle our 23,000 meters. But we went in with an open mind. We really liked the technology, so we tried to stay positive and give them the benefit, figuring worst case scenario, we could start off with 2,000 of our meters if it worked out, and maybe expand from there. We didn't have to do the full 23,000. They're also a developing technology. Some of the things we found out during the pilot, unfortunately, is their reading file was not compatible with our billing system. So for the whole year that we had them, we were trying to find something that would actually be able to import from their site to North Star, which is our billing system. And we weren't able to do it. We had to manually enter most of the reads or do a lot of editing in Excel before we could import it into North Star. It just wasn't compatible and not efficient. The other thing we found was that they had the nice website that they showed us during the demonstration. They had a phone app and everything, and it looked great. But when we got the pilot, there was no phone app available. They couldn't provide it to us, and I'm not sure that they'd actually fully developed it. So we were never able to try out their phone app. The other thing we noticed, and this was actually on the first day, I went out with the Capstone and the meter technicians to install the first few meters, and they were reading in gallons. So we told them we needed it in units, and they weren't able to adapt to that or convert it to our units for us. So it made it difficult for us in actually the reads, which were online in gallons, and for the customer if they tried to read their own meter. It didn't tie out to the bill, so it caused a lot of confusion and complications. And the other thing we noticed on the first day was that their meters are too big for our meter boxes. Our meters are relatively small and round, and we have a shutoff valve that's able to, it's actually a horizontal shutoff valve, so it turns like that and it doesn't hit the meter. Theirs are longer meters, so we weren't able to turn off and on the meter with the shutoff valve. So we had to actually turn the Capstone meter sideways, and the reading's on top of it. So we had to turn it sideways to get the valve to turn off and on. So you really couldn't even read the meter if you wanted to. So it didn't help that it was in gallons, but it made it even worse when you couldn't read it at all. So unless we were willing to change all of our meter boxes out, it'd be difficult for us to try out Capstone further. Another thing we noticed was that, another thing that happened was that 3 meters actually failed during the pilot program. 2 of them just stopped reading, and 1 of them actually blew up due to pressure. It cracked. It had about 1.5 inch to 2 inch long crack in the bottom that was just spitting out water, and we had to go out and replace it due to a high pressure situation, but one that our meters are able to handle. So also, the remote on-off feature that we were so excited about, we tried that out on 3 separate occasions, and on every occasion, at first we had complications because their timing, their website was on East Coast time, so we thought we were turning it off at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it didn't turn off until 7, and then we went to turn it back on. It actually just never came back on, so we had to send someone out the next day after the customer complained to get it turned back on, and it became an issue. We tried it 2 other times, and even when they reset their time schedule to be on Pacific time, it would turn off, but it wouldn't turn back on. And there are different time frames that weren't convenient as well, so that was another complication. And finally, and the one that I'm most interested in, took me for a while, but once we got to the end of the pilot, they gave us a quote on the meters, and they were $9.50 per meter per month. So if you multiply that by 23,000 meters, you get $2.6 million per year. So in comparison to like an AMI program, if we were to do AMI, the initial investment would be somewhere around $5 million. So you're talking 2.6 per year, and the lease term was 12 years. At the end of the lease term, we could buy the meters, but they'd be $1 a piece or $23,000 after 12 years. So just looking at that, it's my overall conclusion. I think our overall conclusion of the capstone meters, it just doesn't really make sense from a cost benefit perspective, and especially given the complications and challenges that we had during the pilot. So if there are any questions on that, I'm happy to answer them.
Anyone
Yeah.
have any questions?
President
Director
Evans?
Spinella, is that your hand? Okay, and
Yeah.
Director
Hey, Wes.
Elmar?
Hey,
Okay.
Wes, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for you and everybody else that was involved to go through this this beta test. And it seems like there was a lot of lessons learned, for lack of a better way to put it. But that's why you test a small group, right? We tested 20 people for what was going to be 6 months, turned out to be 8 months because of COVID. The only thing I would ask is that, I've had kind of a dream, a vision for quite a few years that I do want to go in this direction with this added innovation for our district. I've had the dream's been mostly to give our customers a Vallecitos app for their phone so they can see where their bill is on any given day of the month. We can push messages to them either regarding conservation or emergencies or anything like that. So I don't want to give up on this, even though the first solution that you guys beta tested may not work for us. But the second part of that is, I understand Capstone performed this beta test at their cost, right? And that's great. That's the way it should be. So there was no cost to our customers. But I think at least as a district, we owe them kind of a comprehensive report, something similar to what you just presented here. I don't know if you've had a sit down with them, a debrief, a lessons learned session, just so that for their time and their expense that they put into this, that they can get some takeaways and maybe they could make changes to their solutions to meet our needs in the future or to meet a different water district's needs. But I think we at least owe them a formal debrief after doing this.
Absolutely. So like I mentioned, they just picked up the last meter today. So I'm actually working with TJ, one of the people from Capstone, and Scott, he's the CEO. I asked to schedule a meeting with them about a week and a half ago, and Scott's been on vacation. So once he gets back, we're planning to have all of us sit down and do that debrief.
Great. Thank you. And if you can let us know, after that takes place, just, you don't have to put it on like an agenda item, but just kind of, have Glenn send us a note saying, hey, it took place. And, if anything came out of it that was significant.
And we'll do that.
Thank you. Director Elitharp, had you had your hand up earlier?
No, I didn't, but.
Okay. Director Hernandez, thank you for waiting.
Yes, I happen to be one of the people that had the capstone meter and was just very disappointed. It didn't do anything that I had hoped for. I couldn't get on their system first. Once I got on the system, it was all the levels and everything were East Coast time, and because I couldn't figure out how come all this water is being used in the middle of the night. But then Director Prum identified that to me. So and then the price at the bottom, unless they do something dramatic, the beta test failed miserably based on my personal experience.
Director Martin, do you have a comment?
No, thank you.
Great, you're welcome. I was going to say one of the things, I think Mike has a great suggestion. I'm sure Capstone would want you to give him a feedback on how it went, Wes. But I feel, just as a layperson, this is very informative to me, and in talking to the ratepayers on all the little bits of minutia and details that were looked at to make something compatible. It sounds so easy. We're replacing the meters and we're going to be able to do XYZ with them on our apps. And to see all of the things that could go wrong it's really astounding and quite a learning lesson. I did want to ask, I know that the finance department was the one that checked the cost benefits, but was anyone having trouble with Capstone because you two in finance were involved with installation and reading at all? I don't think so.
I just went out to observe. I didn't touch anything.
Yeah, but I'm just very impressed, and I agree with Mike. I hope we can move forward with this type of a program and find a cost-effective way to do it. But I really appreciate what you've shown us in this display here, because I had no idea how difficult or expensive it could be. So, thank you. Now you have more to present, correct?
I do. So we got to move on. Next is Flume. Let's see if I may not get the IT award, but let's see if IT does. Can you hear that?
Yep.
All right. Good job, Jonathan. Okay, so we're lucky in a way because that was the shorter of the two videos. But here's a little bit from the Flume's website about their technology. Flume is a water monitoring, water monitor to be used on the customer side that actually straps to the meter. It communicates, it actually comes with two devices. You get both the water sensor and the bridge is put in your house, and that communicates with your Wi-Fi. And through that, it's able to send the information up to the cloud so that you can access that information as a customer through their app. So it's all customer side. We've actually been working with Flume so they can provide us the ability to see the customer information. For the customers that have signed the agreement, we can access their information because they volunteered it to us. So the Flume results, as I mentioned, we purchased 25 of them, and we had sent out over 900 emails to customers saying that if they came in and signed the agreement that they'd get a free Flume to test out during our pilot. And so far we've got 22 of those 25 distributed to date. And unfortunately, I'm not sure why, but over the last 2 weeks, we distributed 18 of them. So before that, we had about 4 that have been out there. And we started this pilot program around the same time as the capstone. So since 18 just went out 2 weeks ago, we really haven't got a lot of feedback yet, but we are working with Flume to get the setup online. So now that we have the 22 out there, we've got the agreements. Once we get set up, we'll be able to access the information. And part of the agreement is that they provide feedback so we can call them and get that feedback, or if they volunteer it. Some of the feedback we have gotten, most of it's been from staff who have volunteered. And so far, it's been all positive. It's been easy to set up, easy to use. It's helped detect leaks, and it's been a really good product overall. The only limitation, or one of the limitations that the only one we are really aware of right now, is that they require a metallic bodied meter. Currently, the majority of our meters are metallic bodied. However, the new technology with the iPearls and the Omnis is actually a composite bodied meter. So as we transition to those types of meters, we'll be able to use less and less Flumes. For now, it's a good pilot program, but it's not something that's gonna last forever. And the cost is $200 per unit. It's not too cheap, but we're able to, because I think overall it comes out to be like $4.6 million if we were to put them on all of our meters. However, this is a customer side technology, so if customers volunteer to do it, we're looking into doing some sort of cost sharing program to make this affordable for both the district and the customer. So overall, so far, this has been positive, and we'll continue to get more feedback and access their web technology, and keep you posted as we go along for this. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's the end of my smart meter pilot presentation.
I have a comment. We have a flume, and it definitely was easy to hook up, and it's definitely easy to read. We were a little concerned because our meter is quite a ways from our house. We weren't even sure it would, cover the distance and stuff, but it did. And it certainly helped us discover a couple of leaks, etc. But we have had some unusual, like it registers every night at a certain time we have a leak going on, and this has been months and we haven't been able to figure out what that is. I just talked to Glenn about it. However, when the real intent of this, it seems to me, whether it's spending $4 million to put them on every meter, but right now it's a great opportunity when you have people who are calling in with problems to have it taken, set up for them, and for a short period of time use it to see if they can on their own and with it change their habits, find the leaks, see what's going on. If there's a sprinkler that comes on in the middle of the night and it's flooding the place out, it certainly will tell you. It does send you an alert when you have a leak. So we've been really pleased with it and feel if it's at fault at all, it's the fault of the user, who's probably not as educated on the whole situation as we should be. But I think that would be a very beneficial way to use them, as give it to someone for 3 months at a time and then bring it back and share it again.
And I'll add, the Flume device is primarily a customer service device, whereas the Capstone, we were hoping it could be a replacement for our current metering and billing technology. So they're fundamentally different. So it's not necessarily an either or. And even though the Capstone pilot didn't pan out in the way we had hoped, I think there's still hope that the Flume will continue to be a good customer service device. And in fact, we actually, in the budget process, we put some money in there and the board approved it to purchase a few additional Flume devices, because we think it'll start to get some traction once some success stories are told out there.
Great. Yes, Mike, Director Sinella.
Yeah, I liked your suggestion, President Evans, to have I don't know what the appropriate number is, a couple dozen or 50 or whatever, but to have them on hand for customers that may have a problem, and they can kind of borrow one or rent one, or however we may want it to work, so they can maybe self-identify it, like you said, either bad habits or a leak. But for staff, I'd like to encourage you guys to keep looking, and I'm sure you have done some research, but if you haven't, please do. Let's see if we can find a solution that will kind of meet both, accomplish, both sides of these two technological solutions that we beta tested recently, and see if we can find one innovative company out there that found a way to do both things.
Will do.
Okay. Any other directors? And just
President Evans, I
yes,
have a question.
Director Elitharp, is that you?
I have a question for Wes. You mentioned in your slides that it's only applicable to metallic meters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've missed it, but what percentage of the meters are metallic versus non-metallic?
So we just found out, actually, I just found out this week, I believe, it's like, hold on, let me get the exact number for you. I have it from our meter services supervisor. So we have 22,926 meters. Of those, according to our system right now, and I think it's a little low, but based on what we have entered in the system, about 3,600 are iPearls, or our composite bodies. The remainder are metallic body.
Oh, okay. So there's a good percentage of the 3/4 inch meters that are metallic.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? And GM Pruitt, you didn't by any chance have someone who wanted to speak on this item? I just.
Let me check. No, nobody has expressed a desire to speak.
All right, thank you. Is that a conclusion for our presentations then?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. They were very informative, and congratulations again to everyone. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. I guess I should ask, do you have anyone who wants to speak on the consent items before I ask for a motion? Glenn.
Nobody has their hand raised.
Okay, great. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar as
Move to
presented.
approve, Martin.
Thank you, Director Martin.
Second, Sanella.
Thank you. A second by Director Sinella. So it's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent calendar. Roll call vote. Director Sinella,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Yes.
Director Elitharp,
Yes.
Director Martin.
Yes.
I'll say yes also, so it's approved unanimously. Okay, our first action item 2.1, approval of an agreement with the San Diego County Water Authority for the Vallecitos 11 flow control facility design, construction, operation, and maintenance.
Yeah, President Evans, I hate,
Could you
I
do
hate,
that?
I hate to do this, but a member of the public has just raised their hand. So if I may,
Yes, please do.
and I'm not sure what they wanted to speak to, but I can, if you're okay, I'll allow her to speak now.
I think that's fine.
All right. Ms. Martin, go ahead. Your microphone's muted. There you go.
Yeah, can you hear me at this point?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the flume system. What do you do when the house doesn't have Wi-Fi or the owner does not have a smartphone?
Yeah. President Evans, would you like me to address that?
I think that would be fine.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that is a requirement to allow the full features of the flume to be utilized. A homeowner does have to have Wi-Fi, and they don't necessarily need to have a smartphone, but it certainly helps. If they don't have a smartphone and do have Wi-Fi, I believe there's a website they can go to track their usage, but to really take advantage of all the features, smartphone is recommended for flume.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank
Thank you,
you.
President.
Okay, so we're going on to item 2.1, and I don't know who's going to be doing a presenting on that.
Yeah, I believe Rob Scholl is going to take that item for us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Pruitt. Good afternoon, President Evans, members of the board. I'm going to share my screen real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up the figure, the aerial figure that is in your board packet here, just showing the Vallecitos 2 flow control facility location and where the new Vallecitos number 11 is going to take its place. We are talking about approval of an agreement with the San Diego County Water Authority for the Vallecitos 11 flow control facility design, construction, operation, and maintenance. So just some quick background. We have 5 turnout facilities or connections with the San Diego County Water Authority. 4 of those are off the County Water Authority's second aqueduct, which actually goes through our service district through San Marcos. And we have 1 flow control facility on the County Water Authority's first aqueduct system, which actually goes through Escondido. And that's what's shown here on the figure. Our connection is off Rincon Avenue, just east of North Broadway. And so our connection actually extends into this property that's technically owned by the city of Escondido. If the board recalls, back on November 6, 2019, we brought before you a joint use agreements between us, the County Water Authority, and the city of Escondido to allow us to have access to our connection pipeline into this property. It doesn't extend very far. It's approximately 20 feet north of the Rincon Avenue right-of-way. And that allows us to connect to the County Water Authority's flow control facility pipeline infrastructure on the property. So the County Water Authority is replacing their old Vallecitos #2 facility, which was constructed back in 1958 with a brand new facility here. That doesn't mean a whole lot for us. Our flow rates are not going to change from this. We will still have a 12 cubic foot per second connection to this facility. I wanted to get into the agreement itself a little bit. The County Water Authority, per the agreement, will be in charge of the design and construction of this facility. They will also own and operate this facility when it's constructed. And Vallecitos' responsibility is basically for the review of the design plans. We'll also review any submittal and change orders that come up. And then the Vallecitos Water District will also be responsible for making sure its system is shut down there during the construction and connection to our facility. There's currently, well, sorry, not currently, there is no cost to the district for either the construction of the facility or its operation and maintenance. That'll be completely done by the County Water Authority. I do want to mention here that this agreement was heavily scrutinized between staff and also legal counsel. And I do want to thank Counsel Jim Gilpin and his staff there for helping us go through this agreement and also finding some potential future costs that the County Water Authority was putting in the agreement there for the operation and maintenance of the facility. We have eliminated that language from the agreements. With that there, staff recommends approval of the agreement for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the Vallecitos 11 flow control facility. And I'd love to answer any questions the board may have.
All right, gentlemen, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Scholl? I guess not. Well, I want to say thank you for studying the contract carefully and making sure we had it covered for now and any future possibilities of challenges. And it sounds like it's a good thing to have happen. So we have a recommendation is to approve the agreement. So I'm looking to see if there is a motion for that purpose.
Move to approve, Hernandez.
Thank you, Director Hernandez. And
Second, Martin.
Thank you. It's been moved by Director Hernandez and seconded by Director Martin that we approve the resolution regarding the Vallecitos 11 flow control facility. I'll do a roll call vote. Director Elithart.
Yes.
Director Martin.
Yes.
Director Sinella.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Yes.
That was a yes. I'll also say yes, so that passes unanimously. Thank you all. So we'll move on to item 2.2.
All right, this is I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this is a pretty standard item, something we have to do regularly, and General Counsel Gilpin is going to handle this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Evans. As GM Crum indicated, under the Political Reform Act, the district is required to adopt and regularly update its code of interest, its conflict of interest code, to identify all officials and employees within the agency that make decisions that may foreseeably have an impact on any financial interest. Generally, the conflict of interest code has three components. One, it's an incorporation of the FPPC regulations, which are identified in section 18730 of the California regulations. Two, it designates positions within the district who may be involved in making decisions or participating in the making of decisions that would have a foreseeable material effect on a financial interest. And third, the code identifies disclosure categories for those types of employees. the red line you received, we're required to include a red line as part of the agenda package so people can see the changes that were made. Also, my staff worked with the board secretary in preparing this code, and so I had her circulate the final version of the code, which would be attached to the resolution, which was provided to the board members before the board meeting. Your code essentially includes 6 categories for designated positions, and it's pretty straightforward. This is kind of pro forma what all the agencies have to do, and so this is just a means to get your code of conduct up to par under the regulations and make the amendments suggested. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board members.
Directors, any questions or comments? I'd like to move that we adopt the amended conflict of interest code.
Second, Sinella.
Thank you. It's been moved by Evans and seconded by Sinella that we adopt the amended conflict of interest code. Roll call vote. Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Elethart.
Yes.
Director Martin.
Yes.
Director Sinella.
Yes.
I'll also vote, so positive. That's passes unanimously. 2.3, the COVID financial reporting presentation.
President Evans, if I may, just for the public record, none of the attendees desired to speak on that last item.
Oh, thank you for reminding me of that.
That's quite all right. All right, so the board may, regarding item 2.3, the board will recall that during the budget process, we had made certain assumptions about the financial impacts that COVID may have on the district, and staff committed to providing monthly updates to the board on the actual impacts. So you've seen us on a couple of months before, and you're going to see us every month until COVID's done. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wes, and he and his team are going to provide the update.
Good evening again. No videos this time, so it should go a little bit smoother, and Mike gets to help me out, so you don't have to listen to me the whole time. But tonight I get to present the COVID-19 financial plan update for August 31st, 2020. So as Director Pruitt, or General Manager Pruitt mentioned, staff committed to presenting the board with updates on our COVID-19 financial plan budget versus actual updates. And we would present historical and current trends as well as the actual versus budget results. So Mike is actually going to start off the presentation and talk to you about water sales and production. Or maybe not.
Mike, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
I think now I got it.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Wes, members of the board, Director Evans. So again, just catching up on the COVID information. So for fiscal year 2020-21, which just started July 1st, we're going to talk about the four different customer types. So the residential, the commercial, industrial, irrigation, agricultural. So that's for the sales. Then we'll hit a little bit on the production or the purchases that we buy water from the Water Authority. So the next graph real quick will just show you the four sales categories by percentage of sales. These aren't how many percentage of customers, it's the percentage of sales that we have, just to kind of show you the impact. Residential is about 2/3 of our customer base. And then our commercial, industrial, and other is about 10%. And those are the two important ones with when we get into the next slide about the COVID and how COVID actually affects our customer base. So if we go to the next slide. So this is a slide that you guys have seen plenty times. What it does is it compares the current fiscal year with the previous 2 fiscal years for the same time period. So this is only a 2-month comparison, July and August. So the right cylinder is 2020-21 fiscal year. And then the middle blue one is the previous fiscal year. So year to date, bottom line is we're about 10% higher sales than we were last year. There's a couple of reasons for that. The biggest reason is that as you know, the last 2 months have been extremely hot. So there's been more outdoor irrigation. So that, if you look at the two middle on the irrigation and agricultural, you can actually see that the irrigation has gone up about 100 acre feet, and the agriculture still has gone up about 12. So that is based, excuse me, weather based. The COVID based part of this is the right column, the furthest right is commercial, industrial, and construction. We expected commercial industrial to be down, and it has been fairly significantly. That's due to the restaurants closing, businesses closing. And most of that water is actually shifted, rather than it be a deletion of water demand, it's actually shifted to the residential. So if you look at the first section, the residential has actually gone up about 190 acre feet. Now, a lot of that is also the warmer months. The single family residential properties are most likely watering their lawns a lot more often. Plus, like I mentioned, the shift from of COVID water to the residential. So this chart shows the 2-month period for the fiscal year. What I wanted to do, which the next chart will show, is show the time period that basically the COVID time period. So this is a 5-month comparison. So back in April, now April billings are really March usage. So this is really a March through July, but for billing purposes, it's April through August. So this will show a 5-month comparison so we can get a kind of understanding of what effects, if any, have COVID had on our customer base. So last year at this time, for the 5-month period, we sold about 5,300 acre feet and purchased about 6,800 acre feet. And I just want to make it clear again that 1,500 acre feet delta is not water loss. Most of it is a timing difference. We are getting in the hotter months, so we are buying a lot more water in preparation for the sales. So that's not a concern. The next column is the current fiscal year. So last year, for the 5-month period, it was 5,300. This year, it's 5,600. So it's actually an improvement. Go ahead and click again, Wes, of about 6%. So our sales are up for that 5-month period, about 6%. So where does that compare to what we budgeted for? Because that's the main thing, is that we already knew COVID was probably going to have an effect. Like I said, the biggest effect is going to be in the commercial, industrial, other. We did see an 18% decrease in the commercial, industrial, other. We did budget for about a 25% decrease. So the sales have not gone down as much as we thought, which is a good thing. For residential, you'll see it's residential and irrigation are both up about 10%. We expected residential to be up about 5%. I think a lot of that extra uptick is, like I mentioned, the warmer months. And then agricultural is about even. We expected that to be about 10% down. Again, that's probably warmer months. I tried to be brief on that so Wes could talk again. So if we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Other than that, I think this is the end of my presentation.
Did you want to talk about the purchases, Mike?
Oh, so purchases are about even, 6,800 acre feet for the 5-month period for both. So a slight 0.25% increase.
Thank you. I don't see any comments. Okay, Wes.
President Evans?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Director Sinella.
No worries. No need to apologize. This is Zoom land, right? Thanks, Mike, for the presentation, and to both of you guys for keeping us up to speed. This is the first time that we've seen the presentation where I feel like we have a data set that's large enough within the time frame of COVID to really kind of get a good snapshot of what's going on out there. And as you mentioned, it looks like it's not going to be as bad as we might have thought it or feared when COVID first hit. And I think that's good news. And I also appreciate that our leadership team and our finance team took the appropriate actions from a budget standpoint early on during COVID to ensure that if things did get bad, that we were prepared for it. But it's nice to see that the numbers are coming within a range that that I think is going to have a limited impact on our district, our finances, our customers, and that's all a good thing. And so thank you for keeping us up to speed. And hopefully that time frame that you have, the March through July, I think we've I think that probably gives us a pretty accurate snapshot of what we can expect going forward until COVID is hopefully sooner than later finally over. But if it does go on until next year, I think we have a pretty good view into what to expect.
Yes.
Great comment. Anyone else? Okay, I think it's all right. We can move forward, Wes.
Okay, so Mike took up some of my time, but that's okay. I forgive him for that.
Talk faster. No, don't.
So yeah, well, actually, yeah, probably should. I got another presentation after this one. So this is the billing timeline in days, and as you remember, we talked a lot about the delays from from when the usage would happen to when we might actually see the effects of COVID. So this timeline was actually created to show that. So if at this point, now that we're at August 31st, we're actually seeing usage that would have been around May, and really the effects on late fees, lock charges, and bad debt. Late fees would be June 29th. Lock charges, we'd see the results probably around August, and then bad debt would be about now. So we'd be seeing the results from May for those three categories. So late fees are like 3 months typically, lock fees 4, and then bad debt's about 5 months later. This next slide shows the delinquency charges for the last 5 months. So we can see, and if you remember, this is the requested fee waivers, and the district actually created the special care program. So customers that actually call in and provide support that they're being affected by COVID, we put them in a special care program, and we don't charge them late fees, and we keep them in that program until they either request to be taken out of it, or when COVID's over and we start charging lock charges again, then or start locking customers again, we'll get in touch with them and see if we can work out a payment program or something like that. So the green shows the special care program. For April, we had 172 requested fee waivers. In May, we had 176. June, we had 100. And that came down to 66 in July, and it came down again in August to 62. So this is, I think we're going to see through my presentation, something similar to what Director Sinella said, is that we may be seeing some impacts, but they're not as substantial as we expected or as we planned for. So this kind of illustrates that too. Customers are actually being taken out of the special care program, and less customers are calling in requesting fee waivers. Here's the fee waivers due to COVID. So customers called in and asked to have their late fees waived because they're affected by COVID. In August, we had $375. It's down from July of $540. This shows the number of delinquent accounts for the last 6 months over the last 3 years. And we can really see that in August, this August of last year, we were at 1403. This year, we're at 1464. So not a major difference between the number of delinquent accounts from last year to this year. It is up from last month from 1124 to 1464, but still not very different from last year. The next slide shows the delinquency charges year to date for July and August. And this one we can see that the delinquency charges for August are at 52,000, so they are up from last month, but not that much different from last year again, because it's year to date. So from last month to this month, it changed by about $30,000, and really that's one customer that had a $20,000 write-off. So overall, it's not too much higher than last year, and it's much higher than we budgeted for, because as you'll remember, we actually budgeted to collect about 30% of what we collected last year. So our budget's at 14,000. And we've collected all of our late fees so far at 52,000. So no problems there. This slide shows the accounts not locked due to COVID for the month of August. So we would have, if we were locking customers, we would have locked 115 customers this month. And that's in line with the number of delinquent accounts increasing by, I think it was 300 accounts. And here you can see the breakdown. There are 112 single family residential accounts, 1 condo, 1 customer, and 1 commercial account. This next slide, it's meant to show 3 bars, but there's only 1 because we are not locking customers. So we budgeted to not lock anyone during the year, and we have not charged any lock fees during the year. So July and August have 0 and the budget 0. So what we can really see from this slide is that We collected $24,000 last year, so really we've sort of missed out on or lost $24,000 in lock charges that we would have collected this year if we were locking customers. Next slide is the bad debt expense year to date. And as of August, our bad debt expense has been $19,463. It's up from $4,000 last year. Still not a very significant, it's only a $15,000 increase from last year. So while we are seeing some increases, not as significant as budgeted. We budgeted $75,000, and that was actually 10 times what we had budgeted or collected from last year. So we're still well below our anticipation. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. That's the COVID-19 presentation.
Directors, are there any comments or questions?
One more.
Director Sinella.
One more thing, and again, you know, these are unprecedented times, and I think we've all have been living through them in different ways. But as a district, you know, I hope we all can reflect on the last 6-7 months, and you know, knowing that we were in a financial position with strong reserves to be able to quickly implement these needed changes for our customers that were hit the hardest during this time. And if you all remember, we actually beat the governor on stopping, you know, turning off water, charging late fees, and collecting late fees at least. And it was a few weeks after we did it that the governor imposed it for the entire state. And I'm just glad that we were able to take the lead on that we were financially able and secure enough because of our policies, our reserve policies, to be able to do that. So just a great job, everybody. It really makes me proud of all of us that we were able to do that.
Well said there, Director Sinella. I don't think any of us could have said it better. A lot to be proud of and thankful for. So thank you. I appreciate these. I know the board appreciates these reports. It's been very useful. Thank you for that extra effort. And I hope it continues to go in the way it's going, because it's a nice surprise. All right, we are just to receive a presentation and provide direction. I don't think we have any direction except to carry on.
Right,
So,
and no members of the public wish to speak on that item either.
thank you. I was just going to go. So does anyone wish to speak? Thank you. So our last 2.4, 2020 year in review presentation. It's been a lovely meeting of presentations.
Yeah, so that's going to be Wes too, but before he goes in there, we often engage the board in discussions about budgets, and at some point in time you get an audit that shows like how your books compared. But what we wanted to do is get to the board as soon after the end of the previous fiscal year and let you know how we did in comparison to the budget. And Wes will probably reiterate this, but the numbers you see are not audited, but we believe they're going to be pretty close to how we actually end up with the audited information. But I thought it'd be helpful for the board to see how well we did in comparison to the budgeted number. So with that, Wes, go ahead.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, this is my last presentation, I promise. So this is the fiscal year 2020 year in review. And as General Manager Prum mentioned, this is they're really preliminary numbers. They're not audited. We have a lot of invoices that come in after June 30th that we have to put back to June 30th as an accrual that are required by GAAP. We've already done a lot of that leading up to the audit, but these financial statements were prepared as of July 5th, I believe, and included in your July 15th board packet. So they were done shortly after year end. There's going to be a lot of changes made up until the audit, but we wanted to give you some preliminary results. So tonight we're going to go through, I'm going to have Mike help me out on this one too. So first we're going to talk about the water operating results, and he'll be involved in that. Then we'll talk about sewer. Then we'll go over the June 30th reserve summary. Then the replacement reserves, the capacity reserves. We'll compare the reserve budget to the actuals. And then we'll talk about the next steps. So all the information that's going to be presented here, I think, as you know, you get the monthly financials in your board packet. And on a quarterly basis, we prepare the quarterly financial results, which are included quarterly. So what you're going to see here is actually from the June 30th, 2020 quarterly financial report. So these are the operating revenues. I'm going to have Mike go through or ask Mike to go through the water operating revenues and water purchases, and then I'll take over after that.
You're muted, Mike.
Mike,
You need to unmute.
Okay, there we go. I was saying, thanks, Wes. Go take a drink of water. So, as Wes mentioned, these are the operating results for the water operating budget. So, we budgeted $31.8 million in water sales. We only had 27.6 million in water sales for only an 87%. Most of that, I was talking earlier about how hot it's been in July and August. Last year in January, February, March, it was very rainy. So we had a lot more rain than anticipated. So our sales were a lot less. We actually sold, in terms of volume, 88% of our budget. So the water sales revenue, the dollar amount, is right in line pretty much with the amount of water that we sold compared to budget. So there's no real concern there. You will see on the next slide a little bit later that there is also a corresponding decrease in water purchases. Our ready to serve, since that's not weather related, or it's a fixed charge. So for the most part, it's a pretty stable revenue base. It was a little bit higher, 14.4. Part of that was when we had our rate increase that went into effect March 1st. We didn't do a straight increase across the board. It fluctuated a little bit and affected some customers more than others. So that's why we're at 104%. So our pumping cost recovery, that is for the most part, most of it is for the pumping charges to get water up to higher elevations. We budgeted at about 340, came in at around 380. So about 10% over budget on that. And our other budgets, that's mainly interest. There were some one-time reimbursements in there, and some lease, probably I think some lease revenues in there. Budgeted at 680, came in at about 770. So the extra one was a one-time reimbursement. I don't remember exactly what it was for. Maybe Wes can help me out when he gets to his next slide. But there was a one-time reimbursement that we had that affected both water and sewer. And I think that's all there is. So unless there's any questions on these slides, I will turn it back to Wes.
Any questions, gentlemen? I think not. Moving forward.
so yeah, I think Mike went through the water purchases already, that there'd be a corresponding 91% budget to actual there. Moving on to the water operating expenses, we can see the operating departments, and the operating departments consist of the pumping department, water quality department, water treatment, tanks and reservoirs, transmission distribution, services, and meters. So those departments are at about 88% of budget at June 30th. But again, with all the invoices and expenses coming in and the accruals that need to be done for the audit, we expect this to be much closer to budget. And you're going to hear me say that a lot tonight. I apologize in this presentation, because that's really what's happening with this, is that we've already posted a lot of stuff that will be reported during the audit. So we'll give you that update when we present the audit. But we would expect these to be, really the report would be if they were well over versus being under. So the supporting departments, and those consist of the customer accounts, equipment and vehicles, buildings and grounds, engineering, safety and regulatory affairs, and information technology. Again, those are 93% of budget, so they're pretty close. So hopefully they don't have too much stuff come in after year end, so we can get them right at 100%. And then G&A is at 88% of budget, and while we may get some stuff coming in there, the majority of that variance is due to the labor being charged to projects. We actually had a lot more labor charged to projects for water than we budgeted. We budgeted about $854,000 for overhead, and the actual came in to be $1.2 million. And as you know, overhead transfers the operating cost to the cost of the project, so it reduces the G&A cost. So that's the water operating expenses. So since we've gone through the revenues now and the expenses for water operations, what does this mean? Well, as you know, the excess of revenues over expenses are transferred to reserves. So let's look at the budgeted operating transfers. We budgeted $46.7 million in revenues and 44.4 in expenses for a reserve transfer of $2.3 million. The preliminary actuals came in at 43.2 for revenue, 40.1 for expenses, for a total reserve transfer of 3.1 million, about $800,000 extra. So hopefully when we get the expenses in, it'll be a little bit closer to budgeted. Moving on to sewer. At the top here, we budgeted perfectly for both sewer services and reclaimed water sales. I say that with a laugh because sewer service is a little bit easier. We didn't have a lot of changes in our customer base, and we didn't do any rate increases. So in budgeting for that, coming in at 100%, while it's still excellent and an A+, we'll be proud of that. Reclaimed water sales is really where I think more of my giggle came in, because they're billed based on our budget, and we haven't done our true up yet. The true up's done during or for the audit, typically right before the audit. So they're billed based on budget until we get there. So this is actually a bill of the budget, so that's why it's 100%. Hopefully that made sense. And then Mike mentioned the other revenue for water. It's the same for sewer. We had an Aqua JPIA reimbursement, and we had the solar reimbursement that caused the other to be over by 399%. So that's the sewer revenues. Now looking at the sewer operating expenses. Treatment is at 78%. That's really at 78% for two major reasons. One, because we also bill Encina based on our budget, so we estimate the operating expenses for Encina until we get to the end of the year and get the actuals, which we book for the financials. In this case, they actually came in at $200,000 over this estimate, so that'll go up by $200,000 just for Encina. And then Meadowlark had a lot of delays with contractors. A lot of it was due to COVID. So another portion of the treatment was down because of that. Hopefully those will happen in the next year and be made up for, but that's really the reasoning for the treatment being down. We will see that increase, but we do expect it to be a little low this year. Then operating is the same same sort of breakdown. Operations for sewer consists of collections, lift stations, and source control. And again, it's at 90%, but should get closer to budget. Supporting is at 87%, and that's made up of customer accounts, buildings and grounds, equipment and vehicles, engineering, safety and compliance, and information technology. And that's at 87%. And then G&A for sewer, it's at 109%, so it's over budget, and that's the same, basically the opposite reason of G&A being low in water. We actually had less labor charged to projects for sewer projects than we had anticipated. We budgeted $488,000 for sewer, and it came in at $375,000. So we're a little bit over budget on G&A there as a result of overhead being low. So what does this mean for sewer? Let's look at the budgeted operating transfers. We had budgeted $6.5 million to be transferred to reserves for sewer, and the actual transfers to reserves came in at $8.9 million, so $2.4 million higher than anticipated for sewer. So the next section are the June 30th, 2020 reserves. It's important to note for the reserves are done different than the financial statements. Financial statements are prepared on an accrual basis. The reserves are done on a cash basis. That means what comes in is in, what goes out at the same time. There's not the variance, there's not the matching principle you have to agree with. So these are actual reserves, and these will not change. I know I've been mentioning that the financials will change, but these won't. So looking at the reserves, let's look at water first. The beginning balance for the water replacement reserves was $37.6 million. For water capacity, we had a shortfall of $7.6 million. During the year, we collected $6.9 million in revenue for water replacement, and we collected $1.7 million in capacity fees. We had $6.7 million in distributions for water replacement. That was made up of projects and the PERS UAL payment. And we had $2.3 million in distributions from the capacity fund, and that was just for debt service payments. The ending balance in the water replacement was $37.9 million, and the water capacity reserves was $8.2 million shortfall. Looking at wastewater or sewer, the beginning balance is $58.7 million, and the sewer capacity was $8 million shortfall. During the year, we collected $12.3 million in revenue for the water replacement reserves, and we collected $5 million in capacity fees. The water replacement distributions were $11.2 million. That's the capital projects in Persuale again. And the sewer capacity reserves had distributions of $4.3 million. The majority of that again being debt service of 3.5. The ending balance of the reserves for water replacement was 59.8, and sewer replacement was 59.8, and sewer capacity was $7.3 million shortfall. So now we'll go into some a little bit less numbers and more graphs. So looking at the replacement reserves, this is the combined water and wastewater replacement reserve balances over the last 6 years. And they're compared to the floor and the ceiling here, so we can see how the balance compares to our reserve policy. And as you can see, in 2020, our water and wastewater replacement reserve balances were $84.8 million, which is within the floor and ceiling, and they're compared to $80 million at June 30th, 2019 last year. And we did have rate stabilization funds in 2019, and I'll show that in the next graph. So this shows the replacement reserves broken out by water and sewer. The water's on the left, sewer is on the right. And you can see at 2019, water replacement reserves were right at the ceiling around $32 million, but they're beginning to come down in 2020 as we've predicted or projected in our budget process. And sewer had rate stabilization at the end of 2019, but now in 2020, those have come down and they're below the ceiling. So moving on from there, this slide is a really busy slide, but this shows the capacity reserves. And as you can see, it shows water and sewer capacity, and it's been since 2015, and they're all shortfalls, is why they're all negative. And I'll try to go through the table at the bottom, and hopefully I can be clear on the presentation of that. It's a year-to-year comparison of the, as you know, for capacity funds, we only collect capacity fees. It's the only revenue we have coming in, and the distributions are only for capacity projects. So here we're showing capacity fees for 2020 were $6.8 million. For 2019, we collected $8.9 million. So we've actually collected $2.1 million less in 2020 in capacity fees than we did in 2019. Our capacity projects for 2020 were 6.6 million. Last year, they were 7.5 million. So the projects, well, this is distribution, so it's projects and debt service. So the total distributions are actually down by $900,000. So the fees are down by 2.1, distributions are down by 900,000. So they're down by less than the fees collected. So you'd expect to see a decrease in a reduction in the decrease of the shortfall. Say that 3 times fast. But if you look at 2020, our shortfall actually decreased by almost $200,000. And again, it's a reduction. Last year, it decreased by 1.4. So that's in line with our expectations based on that. I'm sure that's very clear. If there are any questions, I'll go on to the next one. We're going to do a budget comparison to the reserve balances. And the good news is this is my last slide. So if you want to clap your hands, feel free. Okay, so this is a budget comparison. This shows the 4 reserve balances and how they compared our budget to the actual ending reserve balances. So we have water replacement and capacity, sewer replacement capacity. The water actual replacement ending balance was $37.9 million. We budgeted $29 million in the water replacement. So we had a variance of $8.9 million for water replacement. That was made up of several things. We mentioned we had a higher transfer to reserves of about $800,000. We had more RDA revenue come in than anticipated. We had higher interest earnings than anticipated. And we also had water replacement projects. We budgeted $5.4 million and we were only able to complete $2.5 million. So there's a $2.9 million sort of a timing delay there. Those projects will still be completed in future years. They just weren't done this year. Looking at capacity reserves, the actual capacity ending balance for water was $8.2 million shortfall. We had budgeted an $8.1 million shortfall. So we were only off by about $65,000 in our budget there. For sewer replacement, the actual ending balance was $59.8 million. We had budgeted $47.2 million, so the variance was $12.7 million. Again, that had to do with, we talked about, I think, what was it, $2.5 million in the transfers from operations. There was RDA excess, interest earnings were higher than anticipated, but the majority of the difference there was the sewer projects, replacement projects, were budgeted at $15.6 million, and they came in at 7.2. So about $8.4 million in projects will be worked on and completed in future years and weren't completed in 2020. Finally, looking at the sewer capacity fund, the actual reserve balance came in at $7.3 million. The budgeted amount was $8.4 million. So the variance was actually a good variance. Our shortfall in sewer capacity decreased by more than anticipated at $1.1 million. So I lied. I do have one more slide. This is our next step slide. If no one has questions on the budget comparisons, I'll move on. Next steps, we are working with the auditors next week. So we've actually completed almost all of our accruals and entries, and we're getting ready for them to come in on Monday. And then in November, and hopefully November 18th is the plan as of now, we will be presenting the comprehensive annual financial statements to the board and giving you the final results. And that is all I have. If there are no questions, I'd like to say thank you for listening to me all night long.
Well, thank you, Wes. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Mike. You guys have a wonderful way of putting those details out so we can grasp them fairly quickly. I hope the audience as well understood all that. And I hope you drink a lot of water tonight. Gentlemen, did you have anything else to add or say? No? Then thank you. And we are done with our action items for this evening. We'll move on to reports, and that would be
President Evans,
yes.
a member of the public, well, she raised her hand and then it disappeared. So
Oh,
I'm
I'm sorry.
Okay,
You want
it's back up. It's
Okay.
Miss Martin. So if you're okay,
Yes,
I'll
absolutely.
right. Miss Martin, go ahead, and remember your microphone's muted right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to ask, why do we have a $15.5 million shortfall in our reserve capacity?
So, President Evans, would you like us to respond to that?
Oh, of course I would. I expected you to. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I'm gonna turn it. Let me put my camera back on. So I'm going to turn it over to Wes, but before I do, I just want to point out that I have been exchanging emails and information with Miss Martin, and I'll continue to do so. You may remember she spoke at the last meeting. I've been providing the budget. We will be providing our cap fee study. We'll give her a copy of our CAFR. So we're being very transparent with her, but she asks a good question. So with that, Wes, why don't you try to address that point?
Sure. So as because we went through this during the CAT fee presentation, and I'd like to stress before I discuss this that capacity funds don't affect rates. We track them separately. That's why we have the four funds. We've got the 120, 220, 210, sorry, 110, 120, 210, 220. So the replacement reserves and the capacity reserves are always tracked separately. They're never combined. That way we're able to not let the capacity shortfall affect the rates of the ratepayers. So that being said, and the capacity fees are set through the capacity fee model and capacity fee study. So it's completely separate. So, and during the capacity fee study, we actually had mentioned that, during the recent recession, projected new development on which the schedule was based, it didn't occur for several years, but the debt service payment still had to be made for that. So we actually took out the debt, didn't do the projects, had to make the payments. And as a result, we ended up with a negative balance in the expansion fund. Since then, we've been trying to catch up by collecting those capacity fees. So it's been carrying a shortfall.
Yeah, and I'll add that the board will remember that we recently increased the capital facility fee that we charge to developers to address this very issue. And those fees, those higher fees, significantly higher fees, just went into effect at the beginning of this calendar year. So I think over time, as development gets back to the levels we projected and the new fees are in place, you'll start to see that the capital facility shortfall decrease over time.
So
I had a
we-
quick.
Yes,
Oh.
Director Sanella?
Well, if the customer had a question, I'll let her go first.
Oh, I didn't hear her. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Martin.
Yes, I'm very concerned that you say that there is a debt service for things that we have actually built, but the developers didn't build the things that they said they were going to build.
No, that's not true. So the developers, when possible, we require that the developments build certain developments. But there's a lot of infrastructure that gets built that benefits multiple developments over decades of time. And those improvements need to be built early on to allow subsequent development. And then the way we recapture our money is from subsequent development. So after all that development occurs, that those facilities were built to accommodate, the funds will get trued up. I see my district engineer is raising his hand, and he kind of helps out with the cap fee study. So James, if you want to add to something I said.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I think you're getting to the point, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head. So when a development comes in, if they need something specific for the development, they build it. They build 100% of it. But there are regional facilities like a large tank, and a developer can't build part of a tank. You can't build part of a pipeline, like a big pipeline. You can't build a quarter of a tank. So those are built by the development funds, which, as the finance manager Owens pointed out, and they get built up front, and debt's taken out for that. But the developers are responsible for paying 100% of the debt, including all the interest on that debt. And that's what the cap fee study. So the way when we were explaining this, when the cap fee study was out, and we went out and spoke to different groups, different community groups about it that had concerns, it's kind of the way we explain this. You can't build a quarter of a pipeline or a quarter of a tank. So those regional facilities are built with that fund. And then as development comes in, they have those facilities, but they have to pay their fair share for it. And that, which includes the debt and the interest that accrues with us, or with basically fronting the money and then them paying back 100% of the proceeds.
And President Evans, before turning it back over to you, I'll close by reiterating what Wes said. The deficit or the shortfall in the capital facility fees does not adversely impact our ratepayers at all. They are not paying higher rates because there is a capital facility deficit. The rates they are charged are for operations and for the reserve levels that we think are appropriate for replacements. So I just want to make sure that the public's clear on that.
Well, I appreciate those explanations, and I also appreciate the question from Ms. Martin on it, and that you're working with her on this. I also think it's important we point out that although we're putting front money up for the complete construction of something that will be needed in the future, we're not doing that in a way that leaves us in harm should development slow down, except that we have debt service for a little bit longer than perhaps we anticipated. However, that expense will apply to the developers as they come on board, and they'll still be refunded, right? Returned to us 100%. And that's a little tricky. It's kind of an interesting way of trying to grasp what we're doing. But in this particular case, I don't think this debt, unless it was totally unmanageable, is a bad thing. He's right, we can't do a half a pipe or a quarter pipe. And the first one in needs to help get it started, and we front the money till the second one comes in and pays us back. So thank you all very much.
Evans?
Yes, Director Hernandez.
When you say we front the money, it's not we, the district, or we, the ratepayers. we actually borrow the money from some other entity and then build the facility, and then the contractor, the developers pay that off. But I want to be clear that we are not using any of the ratepayers' money to finish up those portion of the projects.
Correct.
Thank you, Director Hernandez. That's a very important and significant point. Thank you. Appreciate it. Director Sinella, did you also have a comment?
You guys captured it, what I was going to say, so thank you.
Right. Okay, so that does end our action items, and we will move on to reports. And we're back to you, General Manager Pruitt.
Yeah, I just had a couple, and I'll be quick. Wes covered one of them. I was going to mention to the board that our auditor will be coming in next week, but Wes covered that one. So the only other item I just wanted to talk about is we call it a power shutdown heads up. So SDG&E is planning to replace some critical electrical transmission infrastructure in the Lake San Marcos area. And to accomplish this, they'll need to shut off power in certain areas. And one of those areas includes our Lake San Marcos sewer lift station. So during any power shutoffs, we will be operating our backup generator, so the lift station is always operational. SDG&E maybe contact the customers to tell them about the power outage, but I just wanted to let the public know that our generator will be running during the outages, and the noise may be noticeable. And I don't think SDG&E is going to tell the public that there may be a generator running in the background. So just want to take advantage of this opportunity. Our lift station is located adjacent to the tennis courts in Lake San Marcos off of Via Entrada del Lago. And at this time, we don't have a firm date for the SDG&E shutdowns, but it's likely to occur before our next board meeting. So when we get a more firm date, we'll put information on our website and social media. We've done this on a couple of occasions. We've reached out to the public, but SDG&E keeps moving their deadline, and understandably so. They had hot weather and other things that caused them to push the shutdowns back, but we'll keep on top of it and make sure our customers know what's going to be happening out there. So that's all I had.
Thank you. I'm sorry. My dog started barking, so I needed to get the sound out of the way here. Our next report is the District Legal Counsel. Do you have anything to add tonight, Mr. Gilpin?
Thank you, President Evans. I just want to give a quick reminder, mostly for the general manager and his staff, regarding the mass mailing restrictions, which restrict the district's ability to send out over 200 hard copies of stuff through the mail that feature the names or likenesses of the elected officials. There are additional restrictions that come into play 60 days prior to the elections. So if the district is sending out anything, I would just encourage them to check with us regarding those restrictions. If they feature any of the directors' names, photos, etc. during this period of time leading up to the election in November.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that reminder. The San Diego County Water Authority is meeting next Thursday, and the agenda just came out today, so I have nothing to report at this time, which will then move us to the Encino Wastewater Authority. Would the Capital Improvement Committee delegate speak first, please?
Yes, we met this morning, and we covered the capital improvement project status report, where the network phase 2 bidding will take place this fall. The cogeneration building, there's an HVAC design build package that is being produced. That's all under the design side. And under construction, the cogen building, which was the building with the wall that was falling apart, that wall has been completed. They're taking the shoring down now, and there is a network improvement project that continues throughout the area. The next item was the stormwater pump station rehabilitation. We have stormwater that comes down a drainage facility, and before it overflows into the plant, we pump it out. It's been in service since 1965. We're replacing the because of settlement, corrosion, and now some piping, $113,000. But what caught my ear was they're replacing it with ductile iron pipe, which I mean, this is all above ground, so I don't think they have to worry about the corrosion. But I didn't say anything, but I said, okay, well, maybe above ground it's a much better product. And then under new business, I brought up the discussion about a pilot clean water project that we need to start setting a direction, a strategy, steps in which so that we can see if we can't get a pilot project at Encina. And the two things came up. One, Encina is going to have to get some money in order to start that. And two, once we start it, what are we going to do with the water that is created? And so we'll be talking about that in months to come. But I've asked that we put money in the budget for 2021 to get a study, do a design, preliminary design, and we'll see how that goes. But that was the capital improvement meeting.
Thank you. All right, and Policy and Finance Committee, Director Hernandez? I'm sorry, Director Martin?
That's okay, and my apologies. I'm going to have to give a double report at our next meeting because I have all my minutes in my automobile, which is not close to me at this time.
All right. No problem. Okay. And then the next is, are there any standing, Director Pruitt, General Manager Pruitt.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do have a speaker with her hand raised. It's Miss Martin again. I don't know when she raised it, and this isn't an agendized item, so I'll leave it to President Evans' discretion whether you want to allow Miss Martin to address the board.
It's not an agendized item?
Well, it came up during the report outs, so I don't know if there's any obligation to, but I just wanted to inform you that her hand is raised.
Oh, I don't mind. I think it's fine.
Okay, I'll ask you. Miss Martin, go ahead. Okay, you should be good to speak.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to ask, since the director is asking for additional money to be put in the budget for the Encina study and project, is that something that's already been incorporated into our new budget?
Oh, I believe the money he's speaking about is the budget of the Encina Wastewater Authority and their plans for what they want to do next year. It has nothing to do with our budget. Is that correct, Director Hernandez?
That is correct. Separate entity, separate budget.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sorry. Standing committees. Any to report?
Nothing on finance, no new committee meetings till the end of this month.
All right, thank you. No one else? Great. So director reports on meetings, conferences, or seminars attended.
I did meet Director Martin. I did meet at CAWA, as well as a few of us, including you, Director Evans, and had a very interesting guest speaker, Commissioner Brenda Berman. And she was very interesting to listen to because they actually acknowledged all the work that San Diego has done, which I thought was great, that someone knows we did something. And even down to the point of they're looking at raising other dams now, large dams, as a way of conservation. So, but her entire speech was very good. Very good to see some great speakers at CAWA. Of course, we haven't had a CAWA for quite some time, so it was easy. It gets tough when you got to get 12 people.
Right. That was your only seminar conference?
That's the only one.
All right. Thank you, Director Martin. Director Hernandez, did you want to comment? I know you were at CAWA as well.
Yes, I was. It was a very good presentation. And we've now at least started, but we're going to skip a month and then we're going to be back together in November. But it was interesting that not only congratulating San Diego on the work we've done, but trying to encourage and study and participate in storage to the north. And of course, the Sites Reservoir was one that she spoke of, and someday that may happen. But yeah, that was the cow event.
And anything else for you to report on?
I don't think so.
No? All right.
President Evans.
Yes, Director Elitharp.
Yeah, I attended the water reuse symposium this week, Monday through today. Highlights were some really good presentations on communications outreach programs for potable reuse projects. There was a good presentation on a full-scale DPR demonstration project in Scottsdale, Arizona. And there was a good presentation on the San Diego Pure Water Program Phase 2.
I'm glad you're attending those, Director Elitharp. I think that's a hot issue for the future. Then it's good to have you attending and doing that. How about you, Director Sinella?
Yeah, I also attended COWA, like a few of the others have already spoken about. It was actually my first presentation / meeting conference since COVID. First one I've joined online through Zoom, so I didn't know really what to expect, and I thought it was excellent. It was probably one of the best presenters and presentations that COWA has done since I've been going there. Very knowledgeable speaker, of course. I think she has 25 plus years experience in the overall industry, and she's well accomplished. But in addition to what the other directors had said, she also provided an update on the relationship with our neighbors to the south in Mexico, and how I forget what it was, about maybe 15 years ago. Negotiations were a lot rockier and kind of handled in a different fashion. And today it's a very collaborative effort, so that's really cool. And a little bit of kind of some refresher on some information that I think I already knew about the Colorado River system. It's always good. It's such a critical piece of our puzzle, right, when it comes to water in Southern California, that you can never really hear enough about it. And so hearing her perspective about the situation at Lake Mead and Lake Powell and along the entire Colorado River was very beneficial.
Well, thank you. I agree with you totally, with all three of you. I was there as well, and she was very informed, very positive in her comments without being unrealistic. I appreciated that she talked not just about Mexico and the Colorado River in the north and the south and complimented San Diego, but that she pointed out it's a very pivotal time for the Bureau of Reclamation and all of us in how we're going to manage our water, and that they're at a point where they've slowed down just a wee bit to study what they've done and been doing and see how to improve upon it, plus include new technology. And she was really pushing the importance of the storage in the north, as you have all spoken about, and how they're would like to raise it's Folsom, wasn't it, Folsom Dam? And
Yeah.
that that's one of the biggest things that happened when we had our rain this year, is that we down here have developed many ways of trying to capture it, but the north never has before, and that's why they're looking at sites. And I was very pleased that, as you said, that's a major item to them. And I also thought, and had never heard this before, where she said that the Sacramento River was comparable to the Colorado River in its importance to us as a state. I don't think very many of us have ever had that said in a way that you grasp how much water traverses through that river as well, and what responsibilities we have to use it wisely as well. So it was a very well done one, and I was very glad to see COWA come back. Is there any other comments on that then? If not, that's the end of our reports. As far as I know, I don't have any meetings that I need to mention. So it's the end of business. Directors, do you have any comments or future agenda items? then I believe it's time to say thank you to our audience. I know we had a bundle of you out there, and that was really great. Thank you for all the wonderful presentations. I think this is just the best board I've ever seen on audio, trying to take turns and speak up. And I really want you to know I appreciate it. I appreciate the staff, and I appreciate the public that's with us. So you all have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I'll see you
Right.
next time. Bye.
Thank you. You also, President Evans.
Thank you.
Nice
Good
job.
night, all.
Yeah, you're
Bye.
great.